This week on The Breakdown, we chat about how David beat Goliath. A very special guest joins us in the studio. Our team in Japan discuss the quarterfinals, and we hear from Israel Dag after he caught up with Brad Weber.
Man, my heart was pounding out. I had no idea.
Alphabetical order,
So Weber's like right at the bottom.
All of that and lots more tonight on The Breakdown.
Hello and welcome to The Breakdown. When it's come to the point in 2019, all that is left are the playoffs, whether it be Rugby World Cup, Mitre Cup, Farapama Cup, the Heartland Championship. This weekend it is all lined, do or die for the teams that are still alive across the globe. So much to look forward to, so much to talk about. We're going to talk Japan very, very soon, and a couple of our friends who are over there. This is your team tonight. Richard Turner, Kane Hames makes his debut on The Breakdown, John Plumtree, and Ali Williams. He keeps on showing up and we keep giving him that seat. And Ali, though, after a dramatic weekend in Japan and a tragedy for the country and some great rugby that was played, we are finally at the point now where the top 8 sides have got their way through to a quarterfinal.
Yes, it's do and die, isn't it? This is where what we play sport for, the unknown. You know, where great people build their legacies, where other people fall off the cliff. And for me, it's exciting on all realms in terms of rugby that's on our box.
I love the fact he said we play sport. Played. It's a past tense.
I still play competitive
It's not
sport.
past tense. It isn't worked it out, eh?
I still play competitive sport with my daughter who's 7.
It's well and truly.
You're winning?
Oh, yeah.
We've got plenty to talk about. We'll give everyone an opportunity to have their say. But first and foremost, let's look back at the weekend, and in particular, a fantastic day for Japan as they made history.
The mentality of the Japanese players is definitely improving. You know, to take on the big teams again at the World Cup, you know, it's a very exciting time for us.
We're going out there without the fear of losing and just play our game.
Massive belief within the squad. If we focus on ourselves, we can do something different.
A week ago, no one thought we could win a game against Ireland. Now everyone thinks we can win every game.
Not only player, but also our fans, one team.
It was hard work, and I think you could have seen everyone was really full of joy once he crossed the try line.
So let's go!
We're at a really awesome opportunity to do something that has never been done before.
Coming to terms with their disrupted World Cup plans as the typhoon approaches.
It's more than just us. You know, there's a lot of people out there that are suffering from the typhoon.
It's wreaked havoc all up and down the east coast.
A typhoon warning.
Torrential rain and strong winds to the country this weekend.
Grateful for the opportunity to inspire Japan. At this time, you know, Japan needs that.
It makes us incredibly proud that we're representing, 125 million people.
We believe the winner.
Because it's hugely motivational when we understand that we're representing the nation.
Great, exciting times in Tokyo across all of Japan. Of course, dealing with the tragedy as well, and our thoughts, of course, with all the people who are affected. But reality is that Japan now are in the last 8 of a Rugby World Cup, Plums. They knew going in they had a couple of opportunities. They got the first one against Ireland. They took it against Scotland. What do you think this means for the game in Japan?
Oh, it means a lot. I mean, obviously you see all those people there, everyone's just so happy. I mean, no one gave them a chance to win this pool, let alone qualify probably. So it's just great to see Jamie, Brownie, they've worked real hard over the last 4 years to get to this point. I had the luxury of working with those guys the pleasure of working with those guys for a couple of years. I know how hard they worked. They work real hard, and you can just they talk about their game, what they can bring to the game. They just believe in themselves now. So yeah, they're a genuine threat from now on in.
Kane, you watch them play the game, and so often the game is predictable now. There's not a lot predictable about the way that they play.
Yeah, I guess it's a Tony Brown thing. Tony Brown's always said attack faster than the other teams can defend. And you can sort of see that in the Japanese game. It's quick, it's rapid, and a lot of unpredictability, as Tony Brown always brings. So it's bringing them a lot of success, and it's great to see.
From a guy who had very few fast-twitch fibres, that's great to know as a coach. He knows what he wanted, But, Pod, I would say the fact their execution under pressure is the thing that impresses me. They stand up defensively, but also their conditioning. They've come in prepared to play a type of game which is going to challenge everyone they've come up against, and now it's South Africa.
Yeah, look, a couple of comments. Firstly, I think they deserve to be there too. Yep. After last Rugby World Cup, they won 3 games, didn't get there. So this year they won 3 and they got there. So, look, certainly deserve to be there. But, you know, I also heard Jamie talk about the amount of preparation this side have done, 200 and something days in camp in preparation for this Rugby World Cup. So, yeah, they've certainly put the work into it, and they've put the work in. They're reaping the rewards. And look, it's a fantastic culmination. Couldn't have happened better for the greater good of the game as well. You know, host country doing well in their own tournament. It's amazing.
We saw what it did for the game, say, in 1995 for South Africa. And we've seen in the past the host nation performing well. How important it was for us, Ali, at home in 2011. Can they go one step further, and are they now legitimately a Tier 1 nation?
Definitely legitimately a Tier 1 nation. They compete with the best. I mean, picking up on what Pod said, they bring a new element to the game, and whether it's through the way that they think about it, in terms of, look, they're going to show a different picture, they'll execute something completely different the following week, and then for me, there's that adversity that's hit them. You know, it's like a perfect storm. You know, with the typhoon, it bonds the country together. You put a World Cup and then put a team like this playing so well. It's just it's really good for our game more than anything, and just seeing these teams just coming up and getting better and better. Yeah,
and playing, I think, a brand of football that everyone wants to watch. Time now, let's go to Japan and talk to a couple of people who know that country, know that rugby so very, very well. And JK, I'll come to you on such a dramatic weekend for the game. JK, you look at this performance from Japan. How proud are you as a former coach of that side?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, our hearts go out to all those affected. I mean, Friday, Saturday, we were thinking all the weekend's games were going to be called off. I know that I went to the ground early, and underneath of the Yokohama Stadium was still flooded up until like 1 o'clock. But what happened in the afternoon was just an amazing moment for Japanese rugby. I mean, 65 million people tuned in to watch it. But I think, you know, what the panel have been saying is that they have really established a Japanese style. It's incredibly proud to be sitting in the stand and watching it. I mean, the 3 big things for me, and you know, Plums will tell you, they are competitive, at least competitive at set piece. But the thing that they're different at is their line speed. Defensive line speed is so fast, it's not giving the opposition time. And their attacking ball, Andy, I mean, over here, you know what it's like, but I reckon their ball sometimes is coming out in less than 2 seconds. So defensive lines, no matter how good you are, you're not getting set. And that's hard. That's hard to defend, hard to attack against.
It looks like Tony Brown's done a great job on their attack, and Scotty and Jamie, but they've got 2-sided attack every time there's a breakdown. The ball's really fast. They're making good decisions. Everyone's an option across the field. And they've actually genuinely been the better team when they've beaten Ireland and Scotland. It's not a one-off. It's they're genuine threats now.
Oh, I think the other thing too, Goldie, is that you know, when I first got here, 19th in the world, we used to be able to surprise a few teams and surprise them. But after South Africa in 2015, you know, Ireland come in, they probably made a few selection changes, but they didn't underestimate Japan at all. And also, the other interesting thing is there's no way Scotland had anything but respect for them, and so what happened is it was on even keel, and Japan deserved to win it and deserved to be in the top 8.
Andy, Richard Turner, mate, you've spent some time over there obviously playing. What are you seeing in that national side now that you've seen at the club level? I mean, for me, it's a real maturing of their game. It's always been that helter-skelter nature, and you know, often, and I remember my time over there, mate, sometimes you just stand in the middle of the field and wait till there was a breakdown, then you'd go somewhere. But I think there's a real maturing in their game. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, and also I think belief comes into it, and that's that's a big part of being a successful team. If you actually believe you're good enough to be out there and you can compete against these other nations, then that's half the battle. And I think that's what they've developed in their game over the last couple of years, with winning a lot of games. They've been unbeaten for quite a while now. So now when they put their boots on, they go out there and play, they actually believe. And yeah, they've got very good set piece now. They've got a great attacking style. They've got enough athletes now, individual athletes who can beat tackles and offload and play a brand of rugby that can disrupt. And I think it's really exciting, Jack. I mean, it's exciting over here. You can see the Japanese people almost themselves starting to kind of believe.
Yeah. I think the other interesting thing too is that most of us get taught, and all you guys have played, you know what I'm talking about, to tackle at the ball, right? And then second tackler just takes the gap, whereas the Japanese are actually tackling low and the second guy is then very quick onto the ball. So all these rules around high tackles doesn't really affect the Japanese because they are hitting very low first and then the second tackler's coming in and wrapping up the ball. But you've got to be on your feet and you've got to be fast to do it.
Andy, I love your outfit, mate. It's Ali here. You look fantastic showing JK up. I like it, buddy. Hey, the issue to me is the line speed that Japan is bringing all the time. It seems like they're catching teams out. People haven't seen a speed like this. Yes, we've seen line speed like this in defence, but they're even faster than what we've even historically seen, even in the Springboks and the likes. What do you think that's doing to their game?
Yeah, it's giving them opportunities off turnover, isn't it? Because they're getting a lot of ball by rushing up and kind of putting teams under pressure. And I think it's good, often the Japanese team, they're still not bigger than their opposition, but they're actually up and on them before they get to do anything. So that pressure, and also the other thing probably with it as well is it's a decision-making thing. So the opposition first five gets the ball and he sees Rushdie coming outside, and instead of giving it, he sort of has to tuck it and carry himself or put a kick in that's ineffective. So it's obviously a huge part of what they've focused on, Japan, over the months leading into the World Cup, and it's paying off for them big time. And thanks, mate. I'm pretty proud of my shirt.
Yeah, Andy Kane here. Hey, quick question from me. I know French rugby in France, they sort of talk down the influence of the foreign players and they say it's ruining the game. Do you think the foreign players in Japan are probably aiding the success that Japan are facing at the moment?
I hope so, because I'm one of those foreign players. And
we knew he was angling.
Yeah, no, certainly. And that, and also I think the coaching. There's now genuine world-class coaches across most of the Japanese teams. We've got Jake White at Toyota, Wayne Smith's at our club. And you got these top coaches kind of right across. Alistair Coetzee's at Cannon, and so that sort of brings a different element to it as well. But look, as a foreign player playing in Japan, I love sort of trying to help, the young nines and the young tens. And I know Dan Carter's at my club as well. He's the same. He takes them for coffees and he talks about the game and what you need to be thinking about in big moments. And, I think you're starting to see some of that sort of flow through into the international performances.
Hey, JK, it's Plum. Hey, listen, mate, what do you think moving forward to this quarterfinal now are going to be a couple of things, key things for the Japanese if they're really going to put the Springboks under pressure and really have a chance of winning this match?
Yeah, look, I think that if you were playing them, as you'd know, Plums, you'd probably want to slow down and play some boring rugby. I think that the mistake that Scotland made is they tried to play a lot of rugby, but when they actually kept it tight, pick and go, slowed their defensive line up. The whole secret to Japanese rugby at the moment is 2-second ball and attack, but on defence they're getting over the advantage line, so the forwards have to go back and it's slowing their ball up. So I think moving forward, what Japan will have to be able to do is get out of those tight situations, mix the game up a wee bit when they're not getting things their own way. If I was South Africa, I'd be playing a really tight, boring game, making sure you're hanging on to the ball, pick and goes, really robbing it out, go to line out, drive it. Because if the Japanese do get the ball and they can play that both sides of the rucks and they can get it wide and get that quick ruck going, you don't get settled and you get frustrated. I think the interesting thing that I've seen from the opposition is just that complete frustration, both in attack and defence. So, I think a boring game against them will be the way to go for South Africa.
The more they can slow the Japanese ruck ball down, the more they'll take the Japanese out of the game. That's what they're relying on a lot.
Oh, fantastic insight as always, guys. JK, nothing wrong with wearing a bit of issue, mate. Mate, you're part of the team. Mate, I like you looking good.
Well, the biggest thing The biggest thing, mate, that I miss about rugby, as you would know, is
not
the
Ali.
free kick.
All right, we're going to talk about the sides that are gone from the Rugby World Cup, in particular the ones that would have gone to Japan thinking they were genuine contenders to at least make the quarterfinals. I'm going to start my conversation with Argentina. I thought they were a potential semi-finalist. Pod, if you look at their performance, how disappointed do you think they will be? The fact that a loss to France and a red card against England pretty much sealed their fate.
Oh, look, I think they'll be massively disappointed, Goldie. And you look back on their season, I think they would have gone over there with a huge amount of self-confidence, and they've got there. And traditionally, they perform well at Rugby World Cups too. So that's the other thing. Without not even often off the back of the performances they've had. So they would have gone over there with bucket loads of confidence, and just for whatever reason, it didn't deliver.
And on the back of their Super Rugby campaign as well, the belief in that group must have been pretty high. They would have known they could have done really well in that pool.
In saying that, though, there was a lot of work that a lot of the players had to do, Kane. The fact that the majority of the squad played for the Jaguares, and then they've gone on for Argentina, where you think about, for, say, the Sunwolves, only a few of their players have gone on and represented this Japan team. But Jamie's talked about that influence of Super Rugby helping the Japan side. Has Super Rugby, in some ways, would it have fatigued the Argentinian side, the Pumas?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that. It was something that I sort of read throughout the week as well, where a lot of the Japanese players didn't, the top line players didn't play a lot of Super Rugby, whereas on the other side, you're exactly right, the Jaguares made the final, had a fantastic year. And I think you're probably hitting the nail on the head that they could be a little bit fatigued. It's worked against them in the end. It's sort of frustrating for them to see.
Yeah, different team for you though, Ali. I think a team that we all expected to go well in this World Cup.
Yeah, look, frustrating part is, you want to see the island nations doing so well, and for me it was the pick of the Fijian boys. I think there's a lot of international talent in there, both playing in France and playing around the world, and they just didn't. They didn't gel. We looked at them off the back of the Maori All Blacks game, and we thought, here they come. They could be that disruptor in their pool, and unfortunately, losing to Uruguay was sort of
that was it, right? That was done.
Killed most teams, didn't it? And just a bit of frustration. You really want to see how the Japanese, the Argentinians have grown because of the global game. I'd just like to see that in the island nations as well, how they can glow and how we can get that sort of those results we know that they can get.
Plums, a couple of teams from the Six Nations that haven't got through, Scotland and Italy. Where do you think both of those sides are at? Scotland comprehensively beaten like Ireland in their first game, and then you had Italy, who unfortunately didn't get the opportunity to play against the All Blacks.
Yeah, and they didn't get the opportunity. That's terrible for them. But they really haven't done a lot, have they? The Italians over the last few years. I mean, Scotland. They talked it up and they wanted to play Japan desperately, didn't they? And it was all in the news. But they didn't front. I thought they were really disappointing against Japan. Their line speed was passive. They allowed the Japanese to play their game. Never really put them under pressure up front. Where you'll see that with South Africa this week. So Scotland for me were a major disappointment in this tournament.
Is that the way you see it as well?
100%. And picking up on Ali's point about Fiji, I think they'll be disappointed. They probably didn't perform better. But then if you compare that to a side like Italy, who have spent so much time in the Six Nations and really haven't gone anywhere, I think Fiji will take a bit out of this and go, look, we're on the improve, and the next World Cup they expect to do better, and maybe a couple of World Cups they'll make the playoffs. But yeah, for Scotland and Italy especially, they just seem to be stagnant, Goldie, for all the rugby that they're playing at the highest level. So you talk about Tier 1 nations. They've been in that environment for a long time, and
I feel sorry for
not making improvements.
Why do you feel sorry for them?
Because the game against the All Blacks, to me, the game against the All Blacks was going to be the mark on whether or not they've improved, whether they got closer.
Rubbish.
I don't think they would have beaten the All Blacks. I don't believe that in any way, shape or form. But because they didn't get that opportunity, they'd won the other two games they needed to win to give themselves that chance. They didn't beat South Africa, didn't play well particularly against them. So I think for them it was unfortunate, but they haven't shown enough to be now, I think, called a Tier 1 nation or anywhere near that. I think they've got a lot of work to do, plenty of work to do. Well, at a Rugby World Cup, every team relies on their depth. The All Blacks are in fantastic shape as it stands right now. I touch wood as I say that. Hopefully, as we get through the weekend, everyone can stay healthy. You rely on your squad, and for the All Blacks, Brad Weber, he's come into the team in 2019. He had an opportunity to catch up with Israel Dagg during the week.
Webby. We know halfbacks are all confident. You're very confident, but not all halfbacks will do what you did in last season. It was probably a defining moment in your career when you rang Fozzie and just told him, look, what do I need to do to make this team?
Yeah, when I was ringing, I was like, the heart was pounding a bit, but no, Fozzie and I have always had a pretty good line of communication. Like, he's always said that I can call him whenever, so I took him up on that, and I just let him know sort of what my thinking was in terms of my plan to try and get here, and he gave me his thoughts, and it was probably like my consistency of skill set around my passing and kicking, because like I've always had the point of difference around my speed around the field and that sort of stuff, but you know, I'd have games where I'd throw a couple horrific passes and maybe a few kicks went on the money, so that was probably the main thing, and then realistically it was probably my last chance. If I didn't make it, maybe I'd look overseas, so I didn't want to die wondering, and I'm glad I did it.
Captain Weber is in!
Tell us about when you heard your name read out in the press conference for the World Cup. Like, tell us about the emotions and what was going through your head.
I was just at home with my two flatmates, Abby and Bex, and we were watching, and man, my heart was pounding out. I had no idea.
Alphabetical order.
Alphabetical order, so Weber's like right at the bottom, and sort of trying to like figure it out in my head, like, oh yeah, there goes Smith, there goes Pedonado, there goes Smith, and I'm like, oh, it could be a chance. And then heard Brad get read out, and my two flatmates just started screaming, so I didn't even hear the rest of it, and they were just like all over me, so it was...
And then the phone would have been a crazy. Mum and Dad would have been...
Yeah, Mum and Dad would pump, yeah.
What would it mean for you going into these next couple of weeks, being in that 23?
It'd be incredibly satisfying that all sort of your hard work's paying off and being recognised, and it's been great to have been given a chance so far, and hopefully I still might get a couple more.
And tell us about that combination. You, TJ, Smithy, you got a wonderful connection. You guys work hard, you push each other, and that's what you tell us about that.
Yeah, that's great, and I think the good thing about the three of us is that we're all slightly different players as well. Like, we're all strong in a lot of areas, but we've also got points of difference that's probably different to a lot of squads. That, you know, any game plan that we kind of want to play, we can throw any one of us in, and we can play that style. So. No, I enjoyed working with TJ and Aaron. Interesting personalities, those two. And
all three is different, eh?
Yeah. Well, halfbacks in general, we're a bit different, aren't we?
Oh, man, you're special creatures. We'll play all day.
All day, boy.
Hey, magpies.
Hey.
Back. Kicking off news this week, Kiwi-Irishman Bundy Aki will miss the rest of the World Cup after receiving a 3-match ban for his red card against Samoa. Aki faced a disciplinary hearing in Tokyo last night contesting the red card decision in a bid to be available for Saturday's World Cup quarterfinal against New Zealand. So far in this Rugby World Cup, there have been a total of 7 red cards, which already easily trumps the previous record of 4 in total, both way back in 95 and 99. Springbok lock Eben Etzebeth has turned to the High Court in order to prevent an alleged racist assault case from going to the Equality Court. Etzebeth, along with a group of friends, has been accused of assault and racial abuse during a night out in South Africa back in August. Sky has confirmed its purchase of the All Blacks and Super Rugby rights until 2025. The 5-year agreement means that Sky has the rights to broadcast all rugby in New Zealand, including exclusive coverage of the Mitre Cup, Investec Super Rugby, the Rugby Championship, the Steinlager Series, Farah Palmer Cup and the Black Ferns. Also, as a part of the deal, New Zealand Rugby has picked up a 5% shareholding of Sky itself. And the All Blacks might have to choose between the black jersey and the money available in Japan if the Rugby World Cup hosts go ahead with new plans to set up a professional domestic competition that runs from August to January. The Japan Rugby Football Union has said that it wants to leverage off the success of the Japanese team at this year's Rugby World Cup to launch the 12-team new competition in the second half of 2021. Thoughts on this proposed competition, guys?
My biggest concern, Steph, is that people on my right might think that it's time to come out of retirement
Oh, God, no.
and go back onto the field. That's my biggest concern. No, Kane could probably do it. Ali certainly could.
Oh, you just said no. You just looked at me and went no and moved.
Well, I said no about myself as well. I'm not available.
No, I've done that, been there, done that.
Plums is thinking, right, I know I can coach.
Yeah.
That's an easier opportunity than playing. I can tell you what, I know someone
over there
who shouldn't consider it as well, and they're in Japan, and Kirsty's standing by with Justin Marshall. Now, Marshy, you've just heard about a new competition. Have you got a pair of boots? In a couple of years' time in Japan, you might just sneak out another round.
Goldie, you know very well that I've finally retired and any opportunity to throw the boots on has diminished. I'm not doing it ever again.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I could be persuaded for a lot of money, maybe, but no.
For a lot of money. Kirsty, I want to ask you, Kirsty, look, it's great to have you on. The fact that after the result on the weekend, you were on the ground, have you already seen a noticeable change in terms of how this Rugby World Cup is being perceived in Tokyo and in Japan?
It's honestly amazing. It's so hard to describe unless you're actually here. But the whole 5 weeks that we've been at this tournament, everyone in Japan has embraced this tournament. And now they have reason to celebrate because their own team is in there. It's literally uniting a nation of 127 million people. Everyone is behind this team. Everyone is wanting them to win. And now they think they can win after what happened. What have you noticed since coming over? You've been here for 24 hours now, Marshy. But you were also here when they toppled Ireland.
Yes, I was. And I've been keeping an eye on it, obviously. And look, I think when you go back to the last Rugby World Cup where they managed to beat South Africa and the interest that generated, well, they haven't lost a game in this tournament. And the way that the Japanese public and the people have got behind the team, but I think it's more than that. You know, like, yes, I'm here, yes, I'm in Tokyo, but you guys are there in the studio, you're in New Zealand. But I think Japan's encapsulated the world the way they're playing. I think they've set this Rugby World Cup alight. So it's more than just in this nation. They've actually gone a long way to promoting the game.
Kirsty, Marshy, it's Pod. Hey, talked a little bit about the on-field stuff, but a lot of people back home here just about to jump on planes, you know, getting excited about jumping on planes, heading over for quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals. Just give us a bit of insight, it will give them, I guess, a bit of insight into what they can expect when they get over there.
Well, I just arrived yesterday, Pod, and like, to be perfectly honest, I'd make sure that they get on and get their seat quite early because most of the alcohol was drunk out of the plane early doors. But look, I think what they really want to do is they want to arrive here in Japan and embrace the culture. Like, what people are not only doing is taking in the Rugby World Cup, but they're also experiencing what the Japanese culture is all about. Look at us. We're here at the tallest building in Tokyo, magnificent views in behind us, and there's so many tourists here that are out and about, enjoying themselves, getting into the food, watching the rugby and having a great time. So I would say more than anything, you know, pack your bags ready to be really entertained.
There's also the whole language barrier, and sometimes little things happen that you need to adjust to. Justin Marshall's actually had 2 cold showers because he didn't realise that there was no hot water in the hotel. There's a wee power button. But because it's written in Japanese, it's things like that you've got to embrace, right?
I absolutely couldn't figure it out. But hey, how interesting is this? The guy that gave me a ride here in the cab today spoke perfect English. He learnt his English by learning 11 songs from the Beatles. Wow. And that's how he knows how to speak English. 11 songs from the Beatles. Unreal, eh?
Marshy, Kirsty, Ali here. Hey, what's the world media picking up on the whole success of Japan and how they're hosting the tournament?
It's a real fairy tale, isn't it? But it's more than a fairy tale because they deserve to be here. They're playing so well and everyone is being thoroughly entertained by the way that they're playing. The world media only has good things to say, but it's going gangbusters, not only here, but you look at any of the papers, you look in Ireland, you look in England, you look in America, they're all talking about this tournament in Japan, the first tournament in Asia, and now they make their first ever quarterfinals.
Yeah, and I think also the way that the quarterfinals have developed, like the pool stages were incredibly interesting, lots of the minnow teams performing really well, so that generated interest. Like usually maybe the tournament will meander along until you get to the quarterfinals. The pool play's been outstanding, and now we've got 4 incredible quarterfinals in front of us. So, look, I think I'll, for the weekend, roll out the turtleneck, Ali, which you'll really appreciate because, you know, when you get to these stages of big tournaments, you need to be looking real good.
You'll get locked up, Marshy, if you wear that.
I'll roll it out anywhere. I'll roll it out anywhere.
Hey, Marshy, it's Plum. Hey, are you going to get time to have a get a little hit of squash with Brownie this week, or is he a bit busy?
Yeah, Plum, you're onto it, mate. I've already been defeated by him earlier in the tournament. I was out here for round 1 before I went back to New Zealand to lick my wounds, and I've been in contact with him. He's proving a little bit elusive, so I think the way that Japan have performed, he might be shutting up shop, and we'll see whether or not he's under pressure, and I can try and get him out on game day, and I might have a chance at defeating him.
That's not what he said to us. We talked to him last week and he said he can't wait to beat Justin Marshall at squash. That's a direct quote.
I'd love to know exactly how many points he gives you too, Marshy, to start the game. It's not on even keel. He gives you a few. Thanks very much, Marshy. Thanks, Kirsty. Have a great week. Look forward to seeing you later on as well, I'm sure. Cheers. Look, plenty to talk about coming out of this game. The fact that this weekend, the All Blacks taking on Ireland. Let's have a look at the quarterfinals. This is as it stands, as we know. England taking on Australia, the All Blacks taking on Ireland, Wales taking on France, and there it is, Japan taking on South Africa. What a great weekend. It's a huge weekend for us. Of course, the All Blacks taking on Ireland, and look, if you look at the history between these teams in recent times, the last 3 times we've played, Ireland have managed to find a way to beat us twice. There they are, once in Dublin, once in Chicago, the last 5 times. In 2012, it was a 60-0 win to the All Blacks, but since then, it has been even keel, 2-2. It's taken everything. Remember that late try it took and conversion from Aaron Cruden in 2013. So you think about the performances of what it is. This is going to be a real challenge, but Ellie, are Ireland the same team that has beaten the All Blacks 2 of the last 3 times?
They're a similar team. I don't think they're probably as strong in terms of the momentum they're carrying into this game compared to some of the results that we saw there. And then I think you also have to look at the All Blacks. They're a different team. This is a different competition. There's more at it. And then there's one little man that I don't want any of us to forget by the name of Nigel Owens. And, you know, it'll be his show as well, you know what I mean?
Well, he's been announced as the referee for this game. Yeah. But, Kane, let's talk about Ireland, the fact that they've been able to put the All Blacks under pressure. And we've always been able to call on our forward pack to stand up, and we've done that, but they've found ways to put us under pressure, and they have seriously improved. If you look at this Ireland pack, the way they're defending, can they continue to do what they've done in the past and put pressure on the All Blacks?
Yeah, it's sort of like Ali says. I'm unsure whether Ireland are the same team that have sort of put the pressure on the All Blacks in the last couple of years. And Tyke Furlong, he's a great player, and he's one of their go-to guys, Peter Barney. So there's all these quality players that aren't having the best tournament so far, and it could come right for them at quarter-final time.
Do you agree? I mean, you look at them. I look at the talent they've got. I mean, I look at the backs because that's where I get focused on. If they get a platform, I've always felt that the Conor Murrays of the world, the good halfbacks are the ones that can make life difficult for us. Faf de Klerk for South Africa.
And that's right. And you look at their team, and in key positions, they've got very, very good footballers, you know, and Sexton and the Tenders. So, yeah, look, and it's knockout footy. So this is semi-finals, it's knockout footy. So you just basically got to turn up for 80 minutes. And are Ireland capable of doing that? Of course they are. But you come back to what we're doing, and I'm really excited about what we're doing. You know, we went through the early part of this Test season not showing our hand a lot. I think we've seen it towards the tail end, and then a couple of the games over here, and I think there's more to come, and that excites me.
Joe Smith knows how to beat the All Blacks. Okay, whether he's got the personnel right now to do it, they'll believe that they have, and I've got a game plan that can beat the All Blacks, and that'll be around suffocating and slightly boring the All Blacks. They'll be building pressure through their ball carrying, playing off Connor. It's going to be really important that the All Blacks get off the line, don't allow that momentum, don't allow Johnny Sexton go forward ball, and they've got to build the success on the platform of defence this week for me for the All Blacks. They're going to get their opportunities to attack, I think, but where they come unstuck in Chicago and Dublin was based around being too passive, allowing momentum, and this thing I think we'll see a real angry All Black side getting off the line and put them under pressure.
Plums, on there, I see that the pivotal position is Murray and Sexton, and I think if you can strangle Sexton and not give him the options to release out wide or even come in to his forwards, because that's where he wants to, that's how he releases himself, is give it to the forwards. I think if you can strangle him, and I hate to say this, but play on his ego, because he'll want to play and he'll want to win this game. If you can strangle them as an All Blacks pack together, then he'll make mistakes that will cost them.
A guy like Peter Marnie, who's outstanding at the national level, is Nigel Owens the referee, is he going to allow this Irish team to do the likes of this, to challenge on the ball, to do the line spin? How much of it is the fact what Nigel Owens sees from Ireland and how he referees it?
I mean, that's always the, rugby's a subjectively judged game, isn't it? But personally, I think we've got the best referee. So no issues there whatsoever. I think he'll manage the game. Yeah, he likes to be the centre of attention, but I have no problem with that. And I, as I say, I like how he manages games, and I don't think he'll be, overly influential in terms of the result. We just got to get out there and play some footy. We've been over there a long time. We played 2 games of rugby, so we must be ready to go.
I think we will be ready to go because those results over the last couple of years, Ali, would motivate the All Blacks. We know what it's like. We know what it was like in 2015 when we played France in a quarter-final. We wanted to prove a point. Now, that can take a lot out of you, but Ireland have never played the All Blacks when we've had the combination of Mo'unga and Barrett. We expect it to be named for this game. What changes then? Does that defence that everyone's bringing, does it come under more threat, or can they shut these 2 guys down?
It's definitely a view that they haven't seen before. And I think, if we get Barrett playing wider, it really opens up the attacking options. I think Mo'unga, we know the skill that he's got and the ability he's got to dictate a game. Plums it. But I will have to say our forwards need to really stand up here. And especially our loose forward trio, because that's where Ireland good standard is in terms of a ball carrier. We need to put them on the deck real early, and we need to attack that ball and not give them that time, and then let our forwards put it on their foot now. Mate, be the enforcers. We need our forwards to be the enforcers and bash them up, what they've done to us.
If we can force Ireland to kick a lot, okay, so if Connor's going to kick a lot or Johnny's forced to kick a lot, we're going to get those opportunities to counter-attack and build pressure from that counter-attack. But they'll only kick if we slow them down, put them if we dominate territory, then they'll want to kick out of that territory. We'll be able to build pressure on the back of that. And obviously our set piece has got to function well so we get our share.
So the perfect game you're playing. Because that's the reality. We're going to have to play well, but a lot of those things South Africa had to do against us. We forced them to kick to us. We handled the high ball cane, which allowed us to get our counter-attack going, and then that's when we see the best of Beauden Barrett.
Yeah, well, that's some of the stats coming out of Japan at the moment, isn't it? We're moving him out of 10. They sort of thought we wouldn't see the best of Beauden. But now the stats are coming out where Beauden's touching the ball a lot more and carrying with it a lot more. So if we can force Ireland to kick more to Beauden, then I don't think it's going to work out very well for them.
Good luck with them. Good luck if that's what they do. I mean, when you move a player with the ability of Beauden Barrett and give him time and space, and there's no doubt he's going to be dangerous. Wales take on France. We sort of know where Wales are at. We know how good they can be. They've come in with a lot of confidence. They're coached by Warren Gatland and have prepared well. And they're taking on France. And we know nothing about France, really, because they didn't play England on the weekend. They did enough in week 1 to beat Argentina. But for me, Ali, I look at Wales. They've got guys who can win a game. Justin Tipperick is one of those, one of the best players impacting the contact area. Yeah,
this guy's outstanding. I mean, I think it was 2 seasons ago over there. He didn't miss a tackle the whole season. It was something like 180 tackles, something freakish. The guy's got speed. And what he does is he's a speed, physical player, but he links too. He links his backs and forwards. So, look, we know what Gatz's style is, especially when it comes to playoff football. It's a bit more conservative, give your backs a chance, 1 or 2 chances. Otherwise, I want forwards to dominate and go forward and go from there. France, don't write them off. They're a dangerous outfit. I think, you chuck in Guillaume Garado, who's under a bit of immense pressure as a captain that people are talking about. He is a fantastic rugby player. Then you've got younger guys like Intermac and the likes who are starting to make their name, and they're not getting shy of being their own personal, creating their new French legacy. I think this could be an upset.
Have they got one big game in them, Plums?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, you've got Welsh that are structured, and you've got the French that love playing unstructured rugby. If they get their continuity game based around their offloading, if they want to play a loose game, and the Welsh won't want to get into that battle, because that's where they'll come off second best, I believe.
They've got to probably be the worst team you could face in a playoff game. They're quarter-final stage France, aren't they? really, because they could turn up and bring their A game, and they bring their A game. They're a very
They're the
good
team
rugby nation
that knocked out Argentina.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they deserve this opportunity.
Of course, yeah.
I would like to have seen how they went against England. I think we would have got a really good game.
And I think the fact they didn't play,
they both had qualified though.
They both qualified.
But it makes them. I think it makes them more dangerous.
Yeah,
that we didn't see them. So if I'm Wales, I'm sitting there going, no, they're probably the team I'd least wanted to play in the playoffs.
Well, let's talk about England then, because England take on Australia came, and look, you've got Eddie Jones, who's always got plenty to say up against Michael Checker. There's a bit of bad blood between these two teams. You get that sense. Can Australia find a performance like they did in Perth? And can they put that on an English side?
Yeah, it's probably been the story of the Wallabies for the last 4 years. They had an outstanding 2015 World Cup and then haven't actually managed to show that form since. Michael Checker, Coach of the Year that year, probably hasn't put any performances that he wanted to too, and now he's under a lot of pressure. I'm not too sure. Eddie Jones, he's a shrewd character. He's been to many World Cups with many different teams. He's got a plan. He knows what he wants to do, and I'm unsure if Michael Checker's going to get his way.
To me, England's the one that should win this. They've got the momentum, they've got the players. But the bit that we all sit here as Kiwis across the ditch is the Aussies have got their backs up, don't they? They've got Checker who's under fire, last game. They haven't probably played as well as they should. We've seen what they can do this year in Perth.
Wow.
And they could be extremely, extremely dangerous. And I reckon, this is 2007.
They need momentum to do that. And the English defensive system is really aggressive. They're really big. We know the English will get off the line. The Aussies are going to struggle to get momentum. But if they do, and the way that 9 and 10, if Guinea plays as well as he can around the fringes of those rucks, and they hurt us in Perth like that, if they can get that game going, and Leofano and co get that the inside passes going, they're really dangerous.
For me, that combination inside has got someone on the outside of them in Samu Karevi pod, and his matchup with Manu Tuolangi. To me, the two of them, they could be the difference makers for me in this game, because if you're talking about one line break, about one offload, both of these guys have got the ability in any situation to create something.
Yeah, so the key to this contest is Tuolangi's going to get ball, because he's guaranteed that, because the England forwards are going to front. Now, the key for Karevi is the Aussie type five, the classic cliche. They need to front. If they're going to have any chance in this contest, they need to actually overperform in this game to give him the opportunity. Otherwise, he's out there doing nothing.
But they've talked about England, about how important Manu Tuolangi is for their game. If he's not there, they don't seem to have that same punch.
But where do they play him? Are they playing him at centre, or are they playing him at second five, where they have the two pivots and Ford or Farrell? That, to me, is a selectional choice that comes back onto Eddie Jones, because if he's tighter, I think you'll see he's more direct. But if he's wider, I think that's when we talk about the Australian defence and the Australian ability to shut off the go for it.
I think he would have liked one more game, England, just to solidify his selection. I think they might pick Farrell at 10. I've got a sense they might look at him and go, you know what, we're going to play with his direction. All right, guys, I'm going to ask you, if there's going to be an upset, and I believe there is going to be one in the quarterfinals, where's it going to come from? Pod, I'm going to start with you. If there's going to be... I'm not saying there has to be...
and it's a head and a heart thing for me. I'd like to see Aussie upset England. I'm not a big fan of England and English rugby.
Beautiful pod.
So that's where... But do you think out of the four, that's the most likely?
Again, come back to the tight five, and romantically, I'd love the Japanese to get up, but that's probably less likely to happen than the Aussies get up against England.
Yeah, for me, it links back to 2015. Japan have already beaten South Africa at a Rugby World Cup, and that would be the romantic story. You're exactly right, and if there was to be an upset, possibly that'll be it.
I'm fascinated by this. Plums for you?
Well, I mean, I'm a bit like Pod with terms of England, but my brother-in-law's coaching in there, so if I say England, there's going to be a problem in the family, so I'm not going to go there.
It's a bit ugly,
and
right?
if he wins the World Cup, there could be a match free, which could be rather large. It could spread amongst the family too, so I'll keep my mouth shut. But, the game for me is Wales and France. I think that's a real tough one to call. I'll take Wales on that. But, I think the other games, they're all going to be really, really tight contests. Possibly the Japan-South Africa game is the game that is going to be a real tough one for Japan.
I've got France to be the upset, over Wales. And then I've got the other upset,
you've got more.
Which is Wayne Barnes getting his extra family home in the south of France, picking Japan, little back pocket number for Wayne O'Barnes, and he's gone again. In 2019, he's changed the world.
Let it go. Let it go. All right? He's been very, very good. My upset, I think France are going to topple Wales. All right, we've got plenty more to talk about after the break. Stay with us.
Coming up on The Breakdown, the Mitre 10 Cup semi-finals have been decided and we do the good, the bad and the ugly. Don't go anywhere.
Yes, welcome back to The Breakdown. Well, it's playoff time, not just at the Rugby World Cup, the Mitre 10 Cup as well. And this is as it stands this weekend. The championship kicks off with Bay of Plenty taking on Manawatu, and then in the premiership, Tasman, Auckland, Hawke's Bay versus Otago. They're at home in Napier. In the championship in Wellington, take on Canterbury. That is in Wellington, of course. Plenty to look forward to. Tasman undefeated in 2019. Pod, you were at the game on the weekend. Can anyone out of Wellington, Canterbury or Auckland defeat them?
Short answer, no. They're a level ahead of any other team in this competition this year, and the only side that will beat Tasman are Tasman themselves. So they turn up, have an off day.
Classic answer.
Then you're a chance.
Yep.
But if Tasman turn up and you know, they'll win this at 80%.
To the defending champions.
Win this at 80%.
He who gambles against Auckland is a very, very silly man. Good sir.
You boys are lucky
very
to be there.
silly. How are we lucky? How are we lucky? Harbour never were in that game.
Can you understand this with Tasman, though? 3 finals. They haven't managed to get themselves across the line. What's different about this squad this year?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not too much different from the squad last year, and I'm glad that the semi-final isn't against Canterbury, because Canterbury came up last year to Nelson, and the Mitchell Drummond show, he put on a great performance and probably beat Tasman single-handedly. So, and then again, Auckland don't look like the championship team of last year. I haven't seen them put in a huge
they don't
performance. But so this could be Tasman's year. They've put a record in, 10 wins in a row. This could be their 11th.
He can't say it.
He can't say it, but he knows. He knows. He wants to say it because you don't want to jinx his team.
It's not a nice way to go into a final when you've won every game, is it?
Yeah, well, it's not easy. But Wellington, though, play Canterbury. Canterbury outstanding in defending the Ranfurly Shield against North Harbour. North Harbour played possibly their best game of the season. A little bit unlucky, I believe, but those two teams, Wellington, have looked great at times this year. Plums, how do you think this plays out? And of these two teams, who do you think could go through and challenge Tasman?
Well, I think both of them can. Go through and compete if Tasman do make it. Wellington, if they bring their physicality, get their big ball runners running and play with the continuity that they can. And, we've got guys like Vince, so Ben Lamb, Wes Corson. There's plenty of firepower in that Wellington backline to do the job against Canterbury. Canterbury coming right at the right time, which is, we know they get excited around this time of the year. And they struggled at the start of the season. They've done well to make it. That's going to be a pretty hard final to pick.
All right. Do we think in the championship that it's going to be another battle of the Bay? Yeah. And I hear it's not the battle because that's sewn up in the round-robin one.
Well,
or is that up to debate? Oh, really?
But yeah, it needs to be. For the championship, needs to be Hawke's Bay versus Bay of Plenty in the final, and then the world will be put back in alignment when Hawke's Bay win.
I just wanted to get you. I wanted to get you in on that.
Now.
Are you finished? You're done. You're out.
Let's go. It's the only thing I came here to say.
Let's go to the notice board. Let's go to Steph.
Thanks, Jeff. On the notice board this week, of course, we have Big in Japan tomorrow night at 8:30, as well as our Big in Japan match day on Saturday, leading up to the New Zealand-Ireland match. And as a little taster for Saturday's match, we're playing 3 New Zealand-Ireland matches over 3 nights, starting tomorrow night on Sky Sport 1.
There's going to be some serious rugby this week. If you want to watch it, you're going to be able to watch it here on Sky. Can anyone here see Ireland taking the All Blacks to the very, very limit, to the 80th minute?
Well, this is the one that I didn't want. This was the quarterfinal that I didn't want to see, to be honest. I'd prefer to be playing someone else. So when I saw it was Ireland versus All Blacks, I was a little bit worried. I'm unsure how it's
I've been worried for a couple of weeks. I've been worried a couple of weeks about
Don't be ridiculous. We are going to be fine. This has got a bit of extra tension to us and we'll smash them. Like 2015 when we smashed the French. Everyone go and get a few beers, relax and enjoy the show that the All Blacks.
Ali's so confident for a guy who has been there and
failed and fell
Thank you
over
so
in
much,
the
Les. Thank you so
quarterfinal.
much. A great contest coming up on the weekend. So much to look forward to. A great weekend of rugby. For us here at Sky, it's been a privilege to bring you rugby over the past 25 years, and we look forward to doing with you again on the home of sport, Sky.
When I saw the doc, he was just told me straight up, you gotta lose weight. You're heading for an early grave.
Some of my instructors down there said, oh, the place is around forever, like your rugby won't be.
I guess just the physical component, I suppose, of being on a farm helps me in my sport, helps me in life.
Our privilege on behalf of New Zealand Rugby to announce the Black Ferns for 2019.
Sam Kane is on the bench for the Chiefs at Eden Park. Welcome back, Sam.
Welcome back.
Welcome into the kick-off. It's round 14 of Super Rugby.
Oh, we've got him!
Great irony this week, of course, is that the Blues were the only New Zealand team to win.
Grant, thanks so much for being the first guest on our couch.
Welcome,
Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Mills, it's on for your Chiefs tonight. They've got to find a way to win to stay alive.
Damien McKenzie puts the foot down.
Biggest thing about Crusaders, it's a team first mentality.
Like how Sky Sports plays the fire and it goes up.
So this is Rugby, this is my home, this is a little valley in the Eastern Bay of Plenty of New Zealand.
Something special with the surf and the sea.
Crusaders win a night game. The Northwood champions have done it again. It's all over. It's Fiji.
And great achievement to St. Peter's as they come from everywhere to share in the moment.
Back-to-back Farapama Cup champions of Canterbury.
Whanapunua Kapiti. Otago have won the Red Fairley Shield.
And Auckland are going to go in.
Auckland, stand up!
If you aim for the skies, you will reach the mountain peaks.
Welcome to Apia Park, Samoa.
And how's this for a moment in sport?